Hello, thank you so much for watching today's message. Before we get into the topic, please be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you're enjoying these tips. All right, maybe you've heard that expression when we are teaching this particular phonics skill, the kind, wild, old ghost. May I have to add that the kind, wild, old ghost will roll, then bolt. So, we in Orton-Gillingham have long referred to those as the closed syllable exceptions. They are words that have those long vowel representations in them, but don't play by the rule with the E at the end, the silent E at the very end of the spelling. And for some students, that can be a fairly simple concept to teach. However, I want to give a few tips to dive a little more deeply into that lesson so that we're not just treating it like a straight phonics lesson, but more language development. So I'm just going to use a few examples from a resource that I have. When we are getting into anything that may be referred to as an exception, we want to cross over and dig deeper into etymology, because what on the surface appears to be an exception may have a historical reason. And the reason why these words like kind, wild, old, and ghost may not have that E anymore, but the vowel is long, really can date back to Old English. So in this poster, this is something that I always introduce with my students first. First of all, looking at those words and opening up a conversation. Why would these be called exceptions? Why don't they have the E at the end? And what I've done is pull out examples that, well, KIND used to be spelled KINDE. WILD used to be spelled WILDE. So there were times where I explained to students at their developmental appropriate level why there was an E for some of these words, but is no longer there. And certainly with older students, you can dig even more deeply into that. But I like to pull back and really bring in that conversation of etymology if I'm going to work on this as a phonics and or spelling lesson, so that we aren't so much just calling it that exception rule. Like, oh, well, it's just an exception. There's a reason why. After I've gone into the etymology of these kind, wild, old ghost words, which they always love because you can, have like cute little ghosts in there or something. This is an excellent time to not only introduce your one syllable words that have those spellings, but to bring in some two-syllable word practice where there are specific affixes that can be taught and addressed and woven into this lesson. So let me give you some examples. Before I get into the different affixes that I would use with these, there are some opportunities where you can work on some compounds like wildcat and wildfire. Okay, but the affixes that I go into with my students so that we can work on some more morphology embedded into this lesson, not just as a phonics lesson, right? Because Orton-Gillingham isn't just phonics, right? We have the prefix re. We can use the prefix un. We've post. And what I really like to incorporate is suffix ish, like childish. So what I will do with these words is open up the conversation and talk about the meanings of them, practice building different words with those affixes in them, and make sure that they are able to use them with greater utility by coming up with sentences in their writing, giving them sentence examples in dictation, having them generate sentences on paper, things like that, so that they're really getting much further practice. So this lesson really doesn't just have to be one syllable, kind, wild, old, and oast. You can really work on some wonderful morphological concepts in addition to that. So this is just to get you thinking a little more deeply about that closed syllable exception lesson, which doesn't have to be considered an exception. All right, so if you've thought about how to weave in more morphology lately or have any questions, certainly reach out to me. I can put the link to a blog post on this topic in addition to the resource that you are seeing me present today. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you soon.